How can we ensure good lives for all, now and in the future? We have the power to bring good to the country. We have the power to make it brighter. From small communities to big cities, by providing energy for all, always. Energy that's reliable and renewable. Power that protects Mother Earth. Power that takes us places, keeping them cleaner and greener. From the centers of our operations to the edges of our network as we serve our customers, we have the power to conserve our resources.
Thanks, Anna. I brought my own.
To protect and preserve our planet, our one and only home, and to ensure our health without harm. We have the power to care for our people while safeguarding their well-being. We empower them to deliver excellent customer service, to improve lives towards a brighter tomorrow.
Your new home is now connected.
Thank you.
We can help bring forth prosperity and a brighter future for all. Together, we can light the path, empower the good life today, and for our children's tomorrow. Powering the good life. Meralco.
Since the beginning, Meralco has envisioned providing the country with power to give every Filipino a better and more comfortable way of life. And for 120 years, it has been delivering light, power, and energy to homes, businesses, and industries.
And now, Meralco is moving into a new era. For the past 60 years, the company has worked to create an intensified network and a resilient distribution facility. In the past few years, it has created vital programs to initiate channels of communication and proactively address the needs of its consumers. One important sector of Meralco's consumer base are enterprise customers.
These are institutions that require at least 500 kilowatts of power, and they include developers, manufacturers, multinationals, and conglomerate entities.
It is for them that Meralco created the enterprise segment to serve their power requirements. To enable these facilities to receive optimum power service, Meralco begins with a thorough pre-planning of network assets.
Meralco has also been building smart substations intended to provide adequate and reliable power. We have installed an advanced distribution management system with a wide array of distribution and substation automation and data analytics technologies.
The optimization and digitalization of our grid have made Meralco more productive and reliable.
As a responsive partner in business, Meralco is poised to help customers improve their bottom line.
Hence, we come armed with tailor-fit energy solutions such as contract right-sizing and other measures to ensure energy efficiency and sustainability. And because customers need to understand the full extent of their energy requirements, Meralco conducts such collaborative steps as power quality audit and energy efficiency consultation.
As the world faces increasing challenges in energy supply, Meralco is focused on finding renewable and green energy solutions.
Already, we started operating a solar power plant in Bulacan that has a current capacity of 55 megawatts.
Meralco is looking at sources of clean energy that will not harm the environment, alongside business units that promote clean energy through solar rooftops and electric vehicle adoption.
Meralco has set its sight on building a portfolio of reliable, affordable, and sustainable renewable energy.
Furthermore, we have initiated programs to address issues that affect the environment, like direct emissions reduction, resource efficiency, and waste management.
It is Meralco's commitment to preserve and protect the environment. To narrow the gap, we embark on a series of webinars and fora to connect with and engage our customers.
As our valued partners, it is our commitment to inform them of these energy solutions that Meralco has put in place to meet their ever-evolving business needs.
Through this, we hope to continue to improve their experience with Meralco as we walk with them into the future of energy towards a customer-centric and sustainable future.
What is ILP and how does it benefit you? Let's start with the power supply chain. The power supply chain has four main components: the generation, transmission, distribution, and end users. Generation companies produce power. Then, the generated power flows through the transmission grid and sends it to distribution utilities like Meralco, who then delivers it to the end users. Why do brownouts happen? We use electricity every day. Usually, the available electricity supply exceeds the electricity we use. But when power plants are shut down, whether for maintenance or due to an emergency, or when part of the transmission grid goes down, this can result in a lack of supply of electricity, sometimes causing brownouts. How do we know if there's a lack of energy supply? The NGCP knows the total available power supply, which they categorize into three: white, yellow, and red. The system condition is white if there is more than enough power supply, yellow when the reserves are low, red when the power supply may not be enough, which means brownouts can occur. The duration of the brownout in each area will depend on the level of deficiency of the power supply. Vital institutions like hospitals, transport systems, airports, pumping stations, and the like are last on the list. How do large businesses manage brownouts through ILP? Big companies are doing their share to help decrease the number of areas affected by brownouts by signing up to the Department of Energy's Interruptible Load program. On yellow alert status, Meralco contacts these ILP participating companies and informs them of the low reserve situation. They are then asked to prepare to switch to alternate power once the red alert status is raised. And the supply can be reallocated to other customers, sparing households and small businesses from a power interruption. The ILP is a program of the DOE, ERC, Meralco, and other distribution utilities for big companies who have the capacity to participate in the Interruptible Load program. For inquiries about ILP, please contact your relationship manager.
A pleasant afternoon to our valued customers and partners. Welcome to another edition of Power Up Life. I am Bicoy Risma, Head of Enterprise Engineering for Meralco.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. My name is Bernice Garcia Rama and I head the Meralco Enterprise Relationship Management Team. Vicoy and I will be hosting this afternoon's webinar program, which will focus on the Philippine power outlook and supply management.
Hi, Bernice. We are very fortunate to have our esteemed guests from DOE today to share with us vital information on the power supply outlook for 2023 and ways and means to help manage the supply situation.
That's right, Vicoy. So let's jump right away into the conversation. Please welcome our Vice President and Head of Meralco Enterprise and National Government, Engineer Maria Cecilia M. Domingo.
Thank you, Bernie and Bicoy. So Director Irma Exconde and Director Patrick Aquino of the Department of Energy, our Meralco customers from the Zoom platform, a pleasant afternoon to all of you. We are very blessed to have two of DOE's experts to join us in today's forum. Every year, we at Meralco prepare for potential power shortages, and this year, we are getting a glimpse of 2023 as early as November. In support of DOE's thrust to help mitigate the energy supply deficiency in the country, as your distribution utility, we at Meralco are doing around the fora to elicit cooperation of customers by either participating in the Interruptible Load Program or participating in various energy-saving programs. Our lineup of speakers and panelists have been well selected to really help manage the situation so that we can alleviate brownouts and for all to exercise prudence in using electricity. The supply deficiency is caused by either breakdown or shutdown of the country's power plants, maintenance schedules, and many others. In May 31, 2021, we had our last red alert situation that resulted to rotating brownout, or what we call manual load dropping. Although ILP participants were able to contribute to the shortage, but their capacity then was not enough to avoid the rotating brownout. As a result, many of our residential and small business customers who have no gensets were interrupted and had no power. Unlike big companies like you, they don't have emergency backup gensets to run on those emergency situations. Imagine those were the times of online schooling, online graduation, online activities. There were a lot of comments saying, online na nga ng graduation ng anak ko, hindi pa kami naka-attend, brown out kasi. Online na nga ng event namin, hindi pa natuloy, etc., etc. So, pitiful situations, but these are opportunities for all of us here to help as a way of bayanihan. Because big companies, malls, hotels, buildings have their own gensets that can run so we can avoid the manual load dropping or rotating brownout situations. And so others like those small businesses and residential users can still continue with their day-to-day activities without any power interruptions. On your end, running your genset will definitely happen in case of manual load dropping or rotating brownouts. And there's no payment to you for doing that if you did not enroll in ILP. But joining ILP is much better because you will be paid for running your gensets and you will be able to run it with proper and timely advice so you won't experience sudden brownout. So similar to what happened just 2 months ago, last September 12, 2022, where we experienced another red alert situation. 72 ILP enrolled customers participated, contributing to a load drop equivalent to 298 megawatts. And as such, no brownout was experienced that day. Our current capacity from ILP enrollees as of the latest is at 582 megawatts. And we aim to increase this capacity as a call to nation building. Kayang-kaya, basta't sama-sama. Our relationship managers from the enterprise and national government teams of Meralco will be glad to assist you. So with that, I turn you over to Bicoy and Bernice, and let's get started. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Cecil, for that warm welcome.
Yes, thanks a lot, ma'am. So it's certainly going to be an informative and insightful webinar session. So please find a comfortable and quiet spot with stable internet connectivity. And for better audio quality, wearing a headset or earphones is recommended so you don't have to miss out any of the presentations and discussions that will be taking place today.
We would also like to make a few reminders for everyone. Please keep your mics on mute. Questions may be posted on the chat box. As Cecil said, our Meralco relationship managers will be glad to assist you with your concerns. We are now showing a QR code on screen that you can scan and give you access to our leads per industry sector. You can also reach us via email and through our hotline number.
Yes, and so before we introduce our first keynote speaker, as in the past, we would like to conduct a quick online survey to find out what our clients expect to learn from today's webinar. May we now request everyone to please scan the QR code that we are now flashing on screen, or
Join na kayo.
or click the link for Mentimeter seen in our chat box. So you can share with us what learnings you may expect and will expect to take away from our speakers and panelists today. So hopefully we'll be able to get more, remarks from our customers today. I believe, Vicoy, this is a very good platform and venue so that we can also learn from our customers what they are expecting and what they want to really know or vital for them to know in preparation to 2023. So there are remarks coming up na.
Ayan. So our first question kasi is, what are you hoping to take away from today's webinar on the Interruptible Load Program or ILP and the power supply management? So yan, marami nang mapasok.
May nakita ko, sir. Paano hindi magkaroon ng brownout? That's a very good question din. Very, very good question. What else, Sir Bicoy? Ano pa ba yun?
Ayan, ito. What are the pros and cons of ILP?
That's correct. Interesting to know kasi it's not really just, I guess for us, the enterprise customer already know this. For the several other ILP webinars that we've been doing year on, diba? So it's not really just for them, but rather it's for the greater community nga. There.
So ito, meron din nag-comment na energy savings and benefits of ILP. So
That's
yan, we'll
correct,
discover
sir.
about that.
And perks of joining ILP. So ang tanong doon, magkaka-brownout ba sila kapag nag-ILP sila? Madadamay ba mga facilities nila if they're now already enrolled in ILP? So really interesting to know later on during our discussion. So I guess with those, they are well noted. And given that, Bicoy, we can present the first keynote speaker.
Okay. So our first keynote speaker has been working with the government for more than 30 years with the National Statistics Office, the National Economic Development Authority, and now the Department of Energy. Through these organizations, she has developed and enhanced her expertise in survey operations, statistical analysis, economic and energy forecasting, including econometrics modeling, and energy and power development planning and policy analysis. She has also been involved in various government reform initiatives, including the continued evolution of the Philippine electric power sector reforms, amongst others.
That is correct. So she also has managed bilateral and multilateral funded projects for the Department of Energy and contributed to various publications such as the 1992 Philippine Development Report, Medium-Term Philippine Development Plan, and annual updates of the Philippine Energy Plan and Power Development Plan since joining DOE in 1993. She has also represented the department in various local and international fora on energy and power.
So Bernice, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of the Electric Power Industry Management Bureau of the Department of Energy, Director Irma Ice Exconde.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Bernice and Mr. Bicoy. So to the organizer of this event, the Meralco team, and to our partners in the private sector, representing the large corporations, a blessed and joyful Friday. On behalf of Secretary Popo Lotilia and the DOE family, we would like to thank Meralco for inviting the DOE to take part in this very relevant and timely topic on energy outlook and the Interruptible Load Program, or ILP. We all know how critical for the country to ensure that there is continuous and reliable power supply at all times to sustain the economic recovery after the pandemic and to provide uninterruptible electricity services in our homes, offices, industrial users, and all electricity consuming sectors. And that is part of the mandate, vision, and mission of the Department of Energy. Our mission is to improve the quality of life of the Filipinos by formulating and implementing policies and programs to ensure sustainable, stable, secure, sufficient, accessible, and reasonably priced energy. As stated, all these are in partnership with all of you, our stakeholders. The DOE prepares annually the Philippine Energy Plan, or PEP, which is a rolling 20-year plan that serves as a comprehensive roadmap of the energy sector and embodies the country's major plans and programs in consideration of energy trends and developments, as well as the action agenda to respond to emerging energy challenges and issues. The latest published PEP contains the power mix targets of 35% renewable energy by 2030 and 50% by 2040. And in accordance with the President's instructions, this plan is to be updated and made consistent with the new Philippine Medium-Term Development Plan. Forming part of the PEP are the power supply and demand outlook in the medium to long term up to 2040 and the supply policy and market development mechanisms to meet the future power requirement and empower the consumers. From now up to 2040, we expect the demand, which is the red line, to grow an average annual growth rate of 7%. The black line represents the assumed reserve requirement of 25% of demand. On the supply side, we plotted the power generating capacity of existing power plants, that's the gray bars, and then the committed power generation projects, those are in black bars, and the indicative power generation projects in the orange bars. Assuming that the power generation projects and its associated transmission projects will have synchronized completion, the chart shows that the power supply will be enough to meet the peak demand and reserve requirement at least for the medium term. To attain the sustainable and clean energy future, we have already laid down the supply policies and market development mechanisms. First is the prosumers. The DOE has worked on empowering the consumers to become prosumers, meaning consumers and producers, through the issuance of the guidelines that enable the non-issuance of renewable energy contracts for RE projects intended for own use or non-commercial uses. Through the net metering, end users can install up to 100 kilowatt renewable energy systems to reduce their electricity bills and sell the surplus to the grid. On the customer contracting options, of course, we have foremost the Interruptible Load Program, or ILP, which is available to all distribution utilities and their customers with gensets. This will be discussed in detail later. And then we have Green Energy Option Program, or GEOP. This is a voluntary policy mechanism allowing consumers with 100 kilowatt and above demand to source their electricity supply from renewable energy suppliers. And then the Retail Competition and Open Access, or RCOA, a policy that allows qualified electricity end users or contestable customers, that we call them, to choose their electricity supplier at an agreed contract price. Currently, those whose demand is at least 500 kilowatt can already choose their power suppliers. DOE also have policy for a directly connected customer, which are the industrial or bulk users, which is supplied through the grid or sub-transmission. The privilege of direct connection shall only be afforded to high demand, energy-intensive electricity end users wherein their distribution utility cannot meet the required capacity and quality of supply. And then we have the Grid and Operating Maintenance Program, or we simply call it GOMP, wherein the policy is intended to ensure grid security and reliability. It contains the optimal combination of the 3-year maintenance schedule of the power generation and transmission facilities. This is to ensure that there is enough capacity to meet the demand and reserve requirement. The policy considered the seasonality, thus only hydropower plants are allowed to conduct maintenance during the peak quarter of the year, that is April to June of each year. On supply contracting, all distribution utilities are mandated to go through the competitive selection process, or CSP, in securing a power supply agreement through a transparent process and as stipulated in the DOE CSP policy in order to provide the least cost power supply to the consumers. And then on the system operation, the NGCP, as system operator, is also mandated to ensure grid reliability pursuant to ancillary services policy. The DOE is strictly enforcing the implementation of the policy to ensure that they fulfill their commitment to provide enough levels of ancillary services given the increasingly important role that reserve capacity plays in preserving the reliability and sufficiency of the power grid. And then we have the Green Energy Auction Program, or GEAP. This introduces greater competition among RE developers and generators and assists them in mitigating market exposure and risk related to renewable projects, thus easing the effect on cost. It also facilitates economies of scale due to the aggregation of energy requirements based on the Renewable Portfolio Standard, or RPS. And then in all this, we emphasize the need for the timely completion and operation of the transmission and distribution facilities, and the need for investments and utilization of smart grid facilities as we embrace the digital era. And also, in all this, the DOE is closely working with the Energy Regulatory Commission to ensure that the policies and regulations are harmonized and will be implemented accordingly and successfully. But again, for today, the focus of my presentation will be on the short-term outlook, which covers remaining months of 2022 and the entire 2023, and focus on Luzon, where your businesses are located. Before I present the resulting scenarios of the mentioned supply challenges, I would like to provide you with the statistics and terms being used in the power outlook scenarios, such as the typical 24-hour load profile, the sectoral consumption statistics, and the capacity terms. Okay, let me show this one, the 24-hour load profile. Actually, this is my favorite representation on how to better understand how we contribute to the total demand in the power system. The red line is the hourly demand, meaning the aggregation of demand of all electricity consumers in the grid, the highest of which is the peak demand for the day. And then for Luzon, the peak demand occurs in the afternoon at 2 p.m. And then let's see what contributes to the increase and decrease in total demand for each hour. Those industries and businesses with 24/7 operations like manufacturing and BPOs, they cover the base demand, while offices, malls, and household activities contribute to the ups and downs in the demand for the whole day. So and then the next slide, we would like to show you the sectoral electricity consumption in Luzon by type of consumers and the Meralco's share to total demand or consumption rather. The large enterprises or the big users belong either in the commercial and industrial consumers, which account for a very high share of 82% for the commercial sector and 68% for industrial sector. This highlights the extent of impact to you should there be power interruptions. But on a positive note, you can also contribute significantly to the solution through participation in the ILP. On the supply side, at the national level, coal remains to have the highest actually share in terms of capacity and power generation mix at 43% and 58% respectively. Luzon comprised 72% of the country's total demand of about 16,000 megawatts, while Meralco contributes about 50%. So half of the country's demand is within the Meralco franchise area. And then in terms of power generation, we are still highly dependent on fossil fuel, which are mostly imported, thus the country's vulnerability to international fuel prices, which we are currently experiencing. And then it is also important that we understand the different capacity terms being used in our preparation of the power outlook, which can also explain why there are still possibilities of power interruptions, even if the statistics indicate that we have enough power generation capacity. So we start with the installed capacity, which is the maximum capacity based on the nameplate of the power plant. However, the capacity that can be relied upon is called dependable capacity. This is after deducting the degradation through time, the station use, and the seasonal derating, such as in the case of hydro. This capacity can be further reduced at any point in time due to technical problems of one or more units of the power plant. There are also the outages, which are distinguished as planned or scheduled, and the unplanned or forced outage. The planned outages can be managed by proper scheduling, but it is the unplanned outages that really makes the difference. This can be due to problems in a particular plant or a transmission facility. So we now move on to the power outlook scenario for 2023. We are already preparing for the contingencies for next year because of the challenges being faced by the power sector, such as the depleting supply of natural gas from Malampaya, the delays in the completion of the LNG facilities that will be the source of fuel of plants that have expired gas contract with Malampaya, and then the delays in the completion of transmission projects that are expected to deliver all the available capacity where they are needed. We also have to consider there will be Malampaya maintenance scheduled on February 4 to 8. And then on top of all this is the continued high fuel prices in the global market, particularly coal, which has the largest share both in power capacity and generation mix, as shown in earlier slide. Now we go now to the chart on the outlook. So this slide shows the power outlook in 2023 in terms of available reserve capacity, meaning the green bars represent the remaining capacity after the demand has been met by the supply, and then the horizontal lines represent the different reserve requirement. Thus, if the green bar exceeds the black line, then there is enough capacity to meet all reserve requirement. However, if they fall below the yellow line, then NGCP will issue a yellow alert notice of the possibility of the rotating brownouts. And if below the red line, then there will be a notice of red alert and rotating brownouts will likely to happen. Please note also that we have factored in here the possible unplanned or forced outages, which is the broken red bar. This is based on the average unplanned outages in each particular week for the last 4 years. This scenario assumed that the 1,200 megawatts of Ilihan will not be available and the committed capacity will be on time with no transmission constraints. With these assumptions, there will be only one yellow alert being expected. So this is the optimistic scenario. Now, this slide shows that the committed, the next slide, this shows the committed power generation capacity assumed in the power outlook. However, noted at the bottom of the table that there will be stranded power generation capacity in case the transmission line in the Bataan corridor will not be completed before the summer months. So with that, if we exclude the availability of the stranded capacity, then this will be the resulting power outlook. There will be 1 red alert and 16 yellow alerts, which will possibly occur mostly in March and May to July. So what is the government's contingency plan? So we have identified contingency plans, which include first, Ilihan to run on liquid fuel at 420 megawatts. And then, of course, the ever-reliable interruptible load program. Currently, it is estimated the existing Meralco ILP participants can contribute to reduce about 284 megawatts from the system. And you are all potential ILP participants who can be part of the solution to the possible power supply challenges. And then another one is acceleration of the implementation of energy efficiency and conservation program, which will be discussed later by Director Patrick Aquino. And then we will also have to aggressively communicate the power policies and programs for greater participation, just as what we are doing right now. Okay, and then considering that Ilihan will contribute 420 megawatts with the contingency plans that in the preceding slide presented, then the alerts will be reduced to only 2 yellow alerts. However, we can expect that prices will be higher due to relatively higher cost of oil relative to natural gas. Now, despite all the preparations, even as early as now, we have to anticipate the worst scenario, which is without the 1,200 megawatt of Ilihan and without committed capacity. And as shown on screen, we may have 8 red alerts and 22 yellow alerts. We are highlighting the alert notices because it is the NGCP's notice of red alerts that triggers for the distribution utilities like Meralco to activate the ILP participants. We are not showing this to make you worry, but we also would like to assure you that all concerned DOE units in coordination with the project proponents are working to have the power generation and transmission projects be completed based on the recent target completion. So in any case, and to complement the efforts on the supply side, there are already programs that are in place. In particular, Meralco has an existing program on peak or off-peak or POP that they simply call, which encourages large users like you to move some of your electricity consumption from peak hours of the day to off-peak hours, wherein the power rate is relatively lower. Another one which we discussed in detail by Ms. Letty of Meralco is the Interruptible Load Program. And I'm sure you are very much interested to hear the presentation. This is to encourage you or the big industries with self-generating facilities to use these gensets during times when there's a notice of red alert. And as such, the grid will be freed up some demand, thus aborting possible rotational brownout in the system. And what is encouraging, as mentioned earlier by our earlier speaker, is that you can recover your cost of running your gensets when you participate in ILP. And this will be discussed in the next presentation. So before I end, please be informed that the details of the list of existing power plants, the committed and indicative power projects, and the copies of the policies discussed are downloadable at the DOE website. Please be reminded that our short-term power outlook is continuously being updated based on new developments. We have presented that long-term outlook towards attaining clean and sustainable energy future, as well as the realities and challenges of the present times. So we call for your support and cooperation for the country's objective of having continuous power supply by participating in the ILP. We can all be part of the solution to the power supply challenges. Maraming salamat po and God bless. See you later in the open forum.
Thank you very much, Director Ice, for walking us through your presentation. It is really significant to take note on the contingency plan set for 2023. And for those of you who may want a copy of Director Exconda's presentation, a recording of this webinar will be uploaded on the Meralco website. Once the link is available, it will be shared with all our registered attendees. Also, if you have any comments or questions about the presentation, please go ahead and type them on the comments tab. We will address them during our panel discussion later in the program.
Thank you again, Director Ice and Bernice. Now, moving on, our next speaker has been with Meralco for 16 years and holds a master's degree in economics from the University of the Philippines School of Economics. As lead specialist, her team conducts policy research and advocacy on generation and transmission-related concerns in the power sector. In 2014, she became a member of Meralco's team that closely worked with the Department of Energy, the Energy Regulatory Commission, and other power sector stakeholders for the implementation of the Interruptible Load Program in Luzon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, to give us a quick overview on the ILP protocols, a warm welcome for Meralco's lead specialist for generation and transmission economics, Ms. Letty Sapina.
Right. Thank you, Vicoy and Bernice, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So some of you mentioned in Menti earlier that you want to learn more about ILP, how to participate, what happens if you participate, do you get compensation, what are the benefits? So I hope to address those in my presentation this afternoon on an overview of the ILP protocol. So next slide, please. But before that, allow me to give additional background on the program. So ILP was implemented, promulgated by the ERC in 2010 and was amended since then to widen the scope of the program, to enhance the protocols as well as the compensation mechanism. So as we all know, ILP was first implemented in Visayas and Mindanao in 2010 and 2012, and in 2014, as directed by the DOE, ILP was implemented in Meralco to address anticipated power supply shortage in Luzon. Next slide, please. So what is ILP? So as mentioned earlier in the video and also by our previous speakers, ILP is a voluntary demand-side management program that allows customers to collectively reduce electricity drawn from the grid when power interruption is imminent. So the objective of ILP is to minimize or completely avoid power interruptions when NGCP issues a red alert notice. So this is done by requesting customers with large loads to shift their operations on gensets or to shift their loads to different schedules to avoid the red alert hours so that the available capacity can be consumed by smaller loads such as households. Next slide, please. Okay, so to join the program, customers must sign the ILP agreement, which is part of the ERC's guidelines. So for captive customers, the agreement is between the DU or the distribution utility and the customer, while for contestable customers, it's a tripartite agreement between the DU, the RES or local RES, and the contestable customer. So that's why the ILP agreement terminates once a captive customer switches to the contestable market and a contestable customer switches from one RES to another. So as of October 2022, the total capacity available for the loading in Meralco's area is around 569 megawatt. This is, however, around 30% lower than the level of enrolled capacity in 2015. So there are about 331 megawatt of potential capacity in the contestable market that have yet to sign or to complete their enrollment and signing their ILP tripartite agreement. So once they complete the enrollment, the capacity available for the loading will surpass the 2015 levels. Next slide, please. So from 2014, ILP in Meralco has been implemented 26 times. And since then, the program has successfully spared around as many as 1.8 million households from rotating power interruptions. So this is why we keep pushing for the program, because the benefits really are beyond the participants. They affect Meralco's area, if not the entire grid. Okay, so now we move on to the protocol. So there are 5 steps in implementing ILP. Next slide, please. So the first step is notification. So in this stage, Meralco's customer care group will directly notify ILP participants through their contact persons of grid conditions and possible ILP activation. So next slide, please. So when NGCP is able to provide a day ahead notification on yellow or red alert, participants will receive an advice the prior day from Meralco's customer care. So they are then requested or required to immediately confirm with customer care their ability to load as committed and as scheduled. So on the current day, if the grid is still on yellow or red alert based on NGCP's advice, participants will again receive a notice from Meralco's customer care and are again required to confirm their participation with customer care. And then during the day, if the red alert persists, customer care will send a final confirmation of the loading 2 hours before the schedule. And again, participants must provide feedback on their ability to the load. So as you'll see in this slide, there is feedback and close communication between the ILP participants, contact persons, and customer care is really required for this stage. So that is why we have a few notification reminders. Next slide, please. So first, since communication is crucial, make sure to provide the correct contact details of the contact person so that customer care can reach them immediately and directly. Second, depending on the level of reserves, the final confirmation notice may also be the first and only notice for the loading. Now, this usually happens if there is a large plant that unexpectedly breaks down. So in this case, the activation will be sort of like an emergency activation. And third, and this is very important, always confirm your participation immediately to Meralco's customer care, as this will be the basis for compensation. Feedback through other channels will not be considered as official notice. Okay, so the second step is activation. So prior to signing the ILP agreement, participants choose between two the loading windows, which cover or capture the morning and afternoon peak of the grid. However, a participant can also choose the flexible option, and under this option, the participant will be advised of possible deloading if red alert occurs either in the morning and or in the afternoon. So just some activation reminders. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, if you will be using your generator set, please always ensure you have ample fuel supply so that you can continue the loading as scheduled and as committed. And second, for all ILP participants, whether you're using a genset or you will just be shifting your load to a different schedule, please deload immediately as instructed by Meralco. And third, depending on the level of deficiency and the time of red alert notification from NGCP, there may be instances where the loading schedule will be extended beyond the original schedule. So at this during this time, customer care will again ask the participant if they can continue the loading during the extended period. And if not, let's click again. Yeah, and if not, please immediately inform customer care that you are unable to continue the loading. So please note that if there is a reduction in the loading capacity of all participants during this period, then the risk of potential power interruptions for all customers may increase. And lastly, participants are required to switch back to normal operations after the prescribed deloading window, unless you receive an instruction from customer care that the deloading is extended. Next slide, please. So the third step in the implementation is the determination of compensable kilowatt hour. So once you've confirmed your participation with customer care, Meralco will read the consumption meters of participating accounts at the same time as the usual reading for billing and tag the hours of ILP. So what does the compensable kilowatt hour cover? So if I can direct your attention to the graph, so the compensable kilowatt hour takes into account your actual load profile for the day. So this is the stripes area. The baseline load profile consumption under the ILP agreement. So that's the line graph. And 1 hour before and 1 hour after the hours of red alert. So as allowed under the ERC's guidelines to improve the program's efficiency, the participant that deloaded during activation will be compensated for 1 hour before and 1 hour after the hours of red alert. This considers that it takes time to reach, after the loading, to reach the committed capacity and to load back to normal. So in our example here, even if the red alert hours are from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., the compensable kilowatt hour will be computed starting 1 p.m. up to 5 p.m. So on the next slide, this is the fourth step, which is billing. So Meralco will compute the deloading compensation based on the ERC prescribed formula and send it to the participating customer for captive customers and the rest for contestable customer for verification within 7 days from the regular reading date. Next slide, please. So as provided in the ERC's guidelines, participants are compensated for fuel and maintenance costs that may be incurred during activation. In the ERC's formula, the participant is compensated for the incremental deloading rate in the third row of the table, which is the fuel costs in excess of total electricity costs of the participant. So when we say total electricity cost, this includes from your generation, your wheeling charges, and also your non-bypassable charges. The fuel cost in the formula is based on the latest available diesel pump prices in the city or municipality where the participant is located. And it is computed using the fuel consumption rate prescribed by the ERC. The deloading compensation also includes the recovery of maintenance cost, which is also computed using the rate per kilowatt hour from prescribed by the ERC. So the final step is settlement. So after you have verified the computation, the signed conforme letter containing the computation of the deloading compensation must be returned to Meralco within 8 days from receipt. So upon receipt of the signed conforme, Meralco will process payment within 30 days. So to clarify, the deloading compensation for ILP is not netted out from the electric bill, but payment is made directly to the participant for captive customers and to the rest for the contestable customers. Next slide, please. Okay, so just some reminders on participation. So as required under the ILP agreement, the deloading capacity, preferred deloading window, your baseline consumption load profile, and your contact persons need to be finalized, or if you're an existing customer, updated if necessary. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, the ILP agreement terminates if a captive customer switches to the contestable market and if a contestable customer switches from one res to another. So when that happens, we need to finalize again the ILP agreement so that you can be called upon and the program can continue to achieve its objectives. So that's it for me, Bernice and Vicoy. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'll see you later in the panel discussion.
Thank you, Letty. That gives our over 400 online participants a clear understanding of how to participate in ILP, and those reminders really are helpful. It is very crucial for us to have more participants in the program to prevent power outages.
That's right, because in fact, last September 12, there was a red alert, and yet there were no power outages that were related and reported to the situation. This was primarily due to the active load dropping of our ILP customers. Around 290 megawatts actually was deloaded from the grid. And good thing that Meralco has a collective of 582 megawatts in total from all our current ILP enrollees. So maraming pong salamat sa
Wow.
aming customers.
Now that is the Philippine Bayanihan spirit. Kayang-kaya, basta't
Exactly,
sama-sama.
exactly. Because we can do our share for a greater community. And if you have any questions as well on the ILP program of DOE, our relationship managers within the enterprise segment is ready anytime for any of your inquiries and clarifications so that if you are able and feasible to enroll, we will enroll you as soon as possible. So marami pong salamat ulit.
Thank you. Now, coming up next is an interesting presentation on energy efficiency by another leader from the Department of Energy.
Yes, and from a career executive service officer to Director of Energy Utilization Management Bureau. Our next speaker rose from the ranks at the Department of Energy and has served in various capacities. Recognizing the need for sustainable energy consumption, he has been aggressively implementing the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, or EENC, and the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or EVIDA.
Bernice, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome for our second keynote speaker for today, the Director of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau of the Department of Energy, Director Patrick Aquino.
Good day, I'm Director Patrick Aquino of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau from the Department of Energy. Allow me to present our programs on energy efficiency and conservation, or EEC, to help mitigate the tight power supply condition in 2023. As part of the continuing implementation of the EEC Act, the DOE mandates the formulation of a Demand-Side Management or DSM program for electric power industry participants to promote the reduction of energy consumption through effective load management, resulting in the decrease of power demand and the migration of power demand from peak to off-peak periods, or such measures undertaken by distribution utilities to encourage end users to properly manage their loads to achieve efficiency in the utilization of fixed infrastructures in the system with the use of energy efficient and/or renewable energy technologies and systems. The DSM guidelines will cover programs for energy consumers from the commercial, industrial, and transport sectors, as well as directly connected customers, contestable customers, and all other electricity-consuming sectors. We also have the guidelines on the energy-conserving design of buildings, which cover new and existing buildings with at least 10,000 square meters of total gross floor area or 112.5 kVA of total connected electrical loads. The guidelines shall not be used to circumvent any applicable safety, health, or environmental requirements of a building, but areas with industrial manufacturing processes are exempt from the guidelines. The guidelines aim for the adoption of an energy efficiency and conservation in building energy sector, covering areas such as the building envelope, electrical systems, and mechanical systems, among others. The adoption of EEC in the building sector comes in the form of energy efficiency projects, and the DOE recognizes that to accelerate the needed investments in EEC, such EE projects should be incentivized.
The objective is to have a measurable reduction in energy intensity and consumption per year. Department Circulars numbers AC 2021-05-0011 and the recently issued DC 2022-03-006 strengthen the guidelines for the endorsement of energy efficiency projects for the availment of fiscal incentives. From simple and complex EE projects, new classifications arise from new and expansion EE projects. Simple energy efficiency projects refer to those projects that involve new installation, upgrading, or retrofitting of specific equipment or devices in the system. Complex EE projects refer to those projects that involve new installation, retrofitting, or upgrading of a system or a combination of systems. New EE projects refers to innovative EE projects designed to reduce energy consumption or caused by any improvement, repair, alteration, or betterment of any building or facility or any equipment, fixture, or furnishing to be added to or used in any building, facility, or construction of green buildings or vehicles, including the manufacturing and provision of services, or will use electric vehicles in its operations and will realize energy savings during operation and maintenance, may qualify for registration. Expansion of EE projects refer to additional EE projects to an existing and/or ongoing EE project designed to further increase energy savings.
The government sector also has EE projects.
The Interagency Energy Efficiency and Conservation Committee, or IAEECC, was created to evaluate and approve government energy efficiency projects and to provide strategic direction in the implementation of the Government Energy Management Program, or GEMP. The IAEECC is composed of the different department secretaries from various government Philippine agencies. Government entities are hereby to abide by the IAEECC resolutions and carry out energy efficiency projects approved by the IAEECC. There are 6 issued IAEECC resolutions. Resolution number 1 directs all government agencies, including local government units, foreign service posts, to comply with the Government Energy Management Program, ordering the Department of Energy to conduct energy audits and spot checks and submit proposed improvements to the GEMP. Resolution number 2 directs all government entities to use energy-efficient light-emitting diode or LED lamps. Resolution number 3 directs all government entities to use inverter-type air conditioning units or similar equivalent technologies. Resolution number 4 enjoins the Council of Good Local Governance to consider, include, and adopt EEC as one of the areas in the criteria per Section 7 of Republic Act No. 11292 or the Seal of Good Local Governance Act of 2019. Resolution number 5 directs all government entities to observe the approved GMP guidelines, while Resolution number 6 recommending to the Governance Commission for Government-Owned and Controlled Corporations or GOCCs to consider, include, and adopt EEC as one of the criteria in the performance evaluation system for GOCCs in the grant of performance-based incentives.
The Department of Energy also has non-fiscal incentives in the form of recognition or awards.
The Energy Efficiency Excellence or EEE Awards prescribe the guidelines, including the categories and criteria for the qualifications, processes, and procedures, as well as the timelines on the implementation of the EEE Awards. The EEE Awards aim to promote energy management system and best practices on energy efficiency in all designated establishments, including local and government facilities, adopt innovative energy management approach into policies, guidelines, and practices, motivate industries in implementing energy management practice to enhance business growth, acknowledge demonstrated best practices in industries, and promote renewable energy and energy-efficient technologies in designated establishments.
For general consumers, we have the Minimum Energy Performance for Products or MEPP and the Philippine Energy Labeling Program or the PELP.
The Minimum Energy Performance for Products or MEPP sets the minimum energy performance rating for energy-consuming products. MEPP aims to eliminate the entry and sales of inefficient products to the market and generate energy savings for consumers. The national energy consumption for designated establishments data will be the basis for the establishment of the Minimum Energy Performance for Sectors or MEPS. The MEP will then be the foundation for the implementation of energy efficiency projects, the target of annual energy reduction, and a vital factor in the periodic adjustment of the energy threshold for designated establishments. MEP for the cold chain sector by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization or UNIDO, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, along with other government agencies, aligns with the goals and objectives of the EEC Act to provide a strategic guideline to govern one of the more energy-intensive and important sectors in the Philippines. The DOE, with the support of the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia or ERIA, through the Meralco Power Academy and the Philippine Institute of Energy Management Professionals, is conducting a survey that aims to record actual consumption data and establish an energy efficiency indicator in the commercial and industrial sectors as defined by the Building Energy Intensity or BEI and the Energy Utilization Intensity or EUI. Lastly is the certification protocol for MEP for electric vehicle charging stations. The Philippine Energy Labeling Program or PELP aims to initiate market transformation and promote energy efficiency through the regulation of energy-consuming products. Initial coverage includes air conditioners, refrigerating appliances, television sets, and lighting products. The star rating corresponds to the energy efficiency rating. The energy label also displays the product details and estimated energy consumption upon use. Sample computation for electricity consumption is also included to enable the customer to compute with the projected contribution of using the energy-consuming product in their household electricity consumption. The energy label also contains a QR code that provides details on the product.
Energy efficiency in the transportation sector will be through the Fuel Economy Rating. The issued Department Circular Number DC 2020-10-0023 provides for the framework for the development of the Fuel Economy Rating, Fuel Economy Performance for transport vehicles, and related EEC policies applicable to all manufacturers, importers, distributors, and dealers of transport vehicles in the country. Also, with the transition to clean energy in the power sector, the use of electric vehicles or EVs is promoted for the next generation's means for transportation.
Republic Act number 11697 or the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act or EVIDA lapsed into law on April 15, 2022 and became effective on May 11, 2022. The EVIDA provides for the development of the EV industry in the Philippines. The Comprehensive Roadmap for Electric Vehicle Industry or CREVI is the National Development Plan for the EV industry with an annual work plan to accelerate the development, commercialization, and utilization of EVs in the Philippines. This is comprised of 4 components: EVs and charging station, manufacturing, research and development, human resource development. The DOE is the primary agency tasked with the promotion and adoption of EVs, the development of charging stations and related equipment. Composition of the technical working group along with the partner agencies of the DOE ensures to harmonize policies and consistent and streamlined standards for regulation of the EV industry.
The DOE has a continuing collaboration with EV players in the country. This is to sustain the development and adoption of EVs through the conduct of the annual EV Summit, where stakeholders meet to share experiences, strategies, and best practices to accelerate the commercialization and adoption of EVs. In preparation for the increased adoption of EVs, DOE Department Circular Number DC 2021-07-0023 was issued covering all activities related to the development, establishment, use, supply, distribution, and operation of EV charging stations. It contains the general requirements for EV charging stations as well as their classifications and requires operators to provide notice to the DOE prior to the engagement in any activity or business in the operation and establishments of EVCS. Before I end, I would like to invite everyone to visit our social media pages flashed on the screen. Let us all do our part to adopt EEC as our national way of life. This concludes my presentation on our programs on EEC to help mitigate the tight power supply condition in early 2023. Once again, I'm Director Patrick T. Aquino of the Energy Utilization Management Bureau of the Department of Energy. Thank you for your kind attention.
Serving our enterprise customers, we have witnessed firsthand how compliance to the EENC law really brings long-term savings and efficiencies to their business facilities. As Director Aquino said, we can all do our share. Once again, for a copy of his presentation, this webinar's recording will be posted on our website as soon as the link is available.
That's right, Bernice. Our next speaker naman is a professional electrical engineer, a Verde professional, and a DOE certified energy efficiency practitioner with more than 30 years of work experience gained from the networks and customer retail groups of Meralco. In enterprise engineering, his main role is to help customers to decarbonize, electrify, and improve their energy efficiency. He enables his energy services team to navigate the business environment of their customers to provide the most appropriate solutions on the interconnection of embedded generators as well as the power quality and energy efficiency requirements of customers. He advocates for the sharing of new technologies and best practices so that businesses can address their sustainability and operational needs.
That's right. So joining us now to tell us more about the Resource Conservation Efficiency Program of Meralco, ladies and gentlemen, we give you Meralco's lead for Energy Services Enterprise Engineering, Professional Electrical Engineer Danny Aquino.
Thank you, Ms. Bernice and Vicoy, and good afternoon, everyone. To start with, my presentation is structured into 3 parts. Next slide, please. First is on how we partner with our customers on energy efficiency and conservation, or EEC, and the scope of our participation as designated establishment, or DE. Then, we move on to where we are now in our compliance to the obligations of designated establishments as designated establishment, and third is the way forward in 2023 in terms of our EEC compliance. Next slide, please. Meralco supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals to bring forth a brighter tomorrow for all. We all know that energy conservation and efficiency are low-hanging fruit in global decarbonization, and for companies, it also makes perfect economic sense. Next slide, please. One Meralco Scope 2 emissions in 2021 increased by 1% versus 2020, due in part to a higher energy sales driven by the opening of the economy. Hence, with our goal of achieving a 10% improvement in our Scope 2 emissions by 2030, campaigning to our customers for them to adopt energy efficiency and conservation in their operation fits well with our sustainability agenda. Next slide, please. Okay, Meralco has been an active partner of the DOE in its campaign for EEC as a way of life. Perhaps some of you here had already attended our numerous webinars and even on-site seminars on EEC. In fact, EEC has always been part of our sustainability-related engagement with our customers. Next slide, please. Internally, we walk the talk by embracing innovation for an energy-efficient workplace. To complement sustainability, Meralco launched the Powering the Good Life webinars to inspire and engage our workforce. The Powering the Good Life webinar series promotes the value of changing lifestyle, habits, and thinking towards sustainability, and we're honored to have Director Patrick and the representatives of some of our valued customers who joined as presenters during our PGL webinar series. Next slide, please. In 2021, One Meralco continued driving its resource conservation and efficiency, which aims to lower the group's Scope 2 emissions and its operating expenses by managing its own electricity consumption. From RCEP Phase 1, which involves the different buildings in Meralco Operating Center in Ortigas, we have expanded the scope of RCEP into Phase 2 to include all our business centers and sector offices spread within our franchise. We deep dive on the available data to formulate the possible solutions, and we prioritize the implementation of the solutions based on impact, cost, and time. Next slide, please. Beginning here, I borrowed some slides of the DOE. So included under RCEP are all of our offices and buildings which are classified as DEs or designated establishments. For our other DEs, we have our business centers or offices whose annual consumption are less than 500,000 kilowatt hour equivalent. Now for our sector offices, we classify them as type 1 DEs since their annual consumption fall between 500,000 kilowatt hour equivalent and 4 million kilowatt hour equivalent. And lastly, our Meralco Operating Center, with its numerous buildings, including the Lopez and Technical Services Building, are classified under type 2 DE. Next slide, please. We submitted early this year our 2021 Annual Energy Utilization Report and our Annual Energy Efficiency Conservation Report. As an enterprise, through our appointed energy manager, we disaggregated our reports detailing our info submission for EEC Forms 3 and 4 at the Service Identification Level or SIN level. Next slide, please. Okay, our energy manager is now working to get his certification in time for our 2022 EEC Forms 3 and 4 submission by first quarter of 2023. Next slide, please. We are also now in the process of submitting all of our energy audit reports for our types 1 and 2 designated establishments, that is for our sector and the Meralco Operating Center buildings respectively. Next slide, please. We have classified our energy efficiency and conservation solutions as either operating control, projects, maintenance control, and monitoring and measurement practices. For maintenance control, this means correcting the manner of usage of facilities to control unwanted consumption. Now, for project involving CAPEX and OPEX, this involves improvement or replacement of facilities whose efficiency had degraded already. Maintenance control, on the other hand, this governs the proper maintenance process in the organization, like enhanced periodic and preventive maintenance. And finally, monitoring and measurement practices pertains to compliance with the different standards set to improve energy efficiency. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of the solutions and activities we have as part of the resource conservation and efficiency. We always go for the quick win solutions like operating controls, since more often their payback are immediate. Now for our CAPEX and OPEX, we also installed solar PV in our branches, roofing, utilizing the roofing of our business centers, so that we may also lower the energy requirement during peak periods. Next slide, please. Now, for 2022, our target efficiency gain for our designated establishments in Meralco is equivalent to 2%. And it is good to note that we are on our way of achieving such target savings. Our learnings from EEC include reducing our operating costs for our own use electricity consumption, improvement in the reliability of our equipment, thereby benefiting our customers and employees. The kilowatt-hour equivalent in savings translate to emissions reduction, which would also contribute positively to our corporate image. Next slide, please. What is next for 2023 in terms of our EEC compliance? Well, our goal is to institutionalize resource conservation and efficiency in our organization through integration of an energy management system in our business operation. In terms of capacity building, we will provide training to a greater number of energy conservation officers to be deployed in our sector and business offices to assist our energy manager. And we have our management supporting us in this effort. And hopefully next year, we may be able to translate our different EEC action plans and practices as part of our business operations. And as mentioned earlier by Picoy, kapag sama-sama kayang-kaya or kayang-kaya samang-sama. Thank you very much and see you later in the open forum.
Thank you very much, Engineer Danny. Really helpful and a vital topic for everyone here in this room. So to get a copy as well of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Manual as discussed by Engineer Aquilio, you may scan the QR code that we are now flashing on your screen. All right, Bicoy. You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Bernice. And before we move on to our panel discussion, let me emphasize some key information shared by our distinguished keynote speakers that we were able to note. One is that supply deficiency is a confluence of many factors, which include the eventual degradation of installed generating capacity, a seasonal derating of a number of generating plants, an unexpected derating of dependable generating capacity, dependable capacity that experiences forced, planned, or unplanned outages, and a high demand for energy, which is usually during the hot and humid months of the year. Second is that the Interruptible Load Program, or ILP, continues to be part of DOE's supply and demand side contingency plan for 2023 and is seen as a big contributing factor to preventing potential rotating power interruptions as a result of supply shortages or deficiencies. And third, DOE has also other notable programs to help manage demand side. And these are options that customers can undertake to do their part in managing energy demand, like implementing energy efficiency projects and conservation measures, and even shifting loads from peak to off-peak hours, potentially taking advantage of the peak off-peak or TOU rates, and in the near future, the use of electric vehicles.
That's a lot and very well summed up, Sir Vicoy. But I guess we're now in the most anticipated part of the program, which is the panel. So at this point, we'd like to, we see that our attendees have already posted some comments and questions directed to our speakers. This brings us now to our panel discussion. We would like to call back Dr. Ike Exconde and Director Patrick Aquino from the Department of Energy, and Ms. Letty
Welcome.
Sabina and Mr. Danilo Aquilo from Meralco.
Also joining us for this lively conversation are two very active ILP customers, the energy consultant of SM Prime Holdings, Engineer Jimmy Patino,
Afternoon.
and the chairman of Walter Mart Shopping Center Management Incorporated, Mr. Abraham Abe Uy.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. So maybe we can kick off with our special guest from our enterprise customers, Mr. Abe Uy and Ms. Engineer Jimmy Batino. So this question is related to ILP. So first with Engineer Jimmy. We'll start with Mr. Abe Uy first. So we all know, Sir Abe, that Walter Mart as a retail customer with several malls and supermarket chain with about 38 commercial establishments. I'm just curious, what compelled you to participate in ILP?
Yeah, I think when ILP was actually developed and shared to us, we thought that this is actually one of the best ideas that have come out from DOE and also with the partnership with Meralco. Prior to this, we were always getting annual brownouts, rotating brownouts, and there is a solution, and it's wonderful that the team actually thought about how to solve this problem. And for us, we also lose our power whenever there's a brownout, so it's also an inconvenience for us when that happens. So by doing this program, by creating this program, I believe that it really helped the general public and even ourselves. We're actually very happy that every time there's a power outage, there's a advanced warning rather than just a surprise that everything turns off. Okay, so I think it's a really very well thought of.
That's correct, Mr. Abe. We thank you very much again for being one of our largest, actually, participant in ILP, and we couldn't thank you more for the participation and the help for the greater community. But also, the same question goes to Engineer Jimmy Patino for SM Group. So, being the largest active participant, one of the largest participants in ILP, we are aware that you have a total of 200 megawatts ready to be dropped in case ILP needs to be activated. And in the red alert that occurred September 12, you are the biggest contributors. How has the experience been for you, sir?
Well, it has been very good, as Mr. Abe had mentioned. ILP is a program that is really going to support the economy, because we are able to minimize the impact of the lack of capacity. While there are some operational issues whenever there's an ILP, because operationally it's not seamless, meaning to say switching from grid supply to your own generation is not that easy. There's so many operational steps involved, but overall ILP provides us a solution so that it will minimize the impact of the brownouts. Well, as far as the company is concerned, you mentioned that we have, actually it's about 244 megawatts that we have enlisted in the program for Meralco. Our first venture into this type of program happened in Visayas, because there was a big problem, I think sometime 2010 in Visayas. The company started to participate then And so when the same program was launched here in Luzon, I understand we were the very first, one of the very first companies to participate in the program. So in general, I would say this is a very positive program that helps economy and helps alleviate some of the brownouts, especially to residential areas.
That's correct, sir. Thank you again. Thank you very much, Engineer Jimmy, for the participation of SM. So I guess from the 280, now at 244, there's additional 300, sorry, there's additional more megawatt capacity for your incoming facilities, Engineer Jimmy. But as also mentioned, for everybody in this room, an FYI, for every 1 megawatt of load that you deload from the grid, that's an estimate of about 4,000 households and small businesses that are being spared from power outages. So kaya marami pong salamat to Walter Mart and SMBC and from everyone else po, no, sa SM rather, for everyone else who are participating and continuously enrolling in ILP. How about you, Vicoy? Any other questions?
I can't help but notice the reaction on Director Ice's face when she heard the capacities committed by our customers. Can we get your reaction to the participation of our customers here who are here now, Director Ice?
Yes, actually, I was overwhelmed with the numbers that are being discussed, especially our SM partners and also the Walter Mart. So I was very happy, and I hope the others who are participating today, this afternoon, will also participate. So you'll have the same experience as SM and Walter Mart. Yeah, I remember, Sir Jimmy, when we were starting the ILP, he is really very active in our meetings in DOE together with our Meralco colleagues here. So thank you very much for your support to this program, which have been very helpful in all these situations when they are needed most. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director Ice. And how about Director Patrick? Is there anything you'd like to say to our customers?
Well, I think it has been very aptly said by the customers, and we do commend those who have already participated in the ILP. Director Ice earlier mentioned several opportunities for our stakeholders to go into: time of use, net metering, and of course having to practice energy efficiency. Going into that space, I think if we all work together and bring all of these solutions to the table, we will be able to hurdle any unforeseen concerns in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. So the participation, and of course, with this program of DOE, we expect a rosy picture for 2023, despite what we expect to be a supply shortage.
That's correct,
Okay.
Vicoy. Maybe we can also go into the other topic, which is energy efficiency and conservation. With this, I'd like to call in Engineer Danny Aquilio. Since our guests here are several corporations, top corporations and conglomerates within the enterprise segment, do you have any suggestions or recommendations that are easy to implement and with a bigger impact for each of these corporations, which they can do so they can share within the efficiency of the program of Meralco and also DOE?
Okay, thank you for that question, Ms. Bernice. And as seen in my presentation, I have provided there several solutions that our customers may try to implement for their energy efficiency and conservation efforts. But I'd like to endorse first, the first solution which falls under the operations controls, because more often than not, these solutions cost nothing, and therefore the savings would be immediate. So we do have some sort of a pamphlet or an energy guide published in our website, and our customers may be able to download it for them to refer and provide and look for some solutions that they can implement in their installation. Thank you.
Thanks, Engineer Danny. Actually, for everyone here in the room again, you also have a dedicated relationship manager on standby whenever you need it, whenever you need them. And we'd like to continue the discussion on energy efficiency, even on ILP, so that we can all push for these initiatives for the preparation to next year, as presented by Director Ice earlier on the supply demand. So anything else, Sir Bicoy, regarding E&C?
Okay, so maybe we can tackle some of the questions that we are already being asked. We have some questions here. I'd like to direct this question to Ms. Letty Sapina concerning the ILP. This is a question from one of our participants, Mr. Christopher Ilaw. He says, we don't have a genset. If we acquire one, can we benefit from ILP regarding the cost of the genset? And a follow-up question, we are currently engaged in a REST contract. Does joining the ILP affect our contract agreement?
Okay. Thank you for that, Bicoy. Thank you, Sir Christopher Ilaw. So on the first question on the procuring, do you need a genset to participate in ILP? The answer is no. So as long as you can commit to the load during the activation, during the prescribed deloading hours of red alert, then you can already be compensated if you deload during that period. So you don't need to procure a genset just to participate in ILP. Second, on your question on the how will it affect your supply contract with the rest? So actually around 90% of the capacity that we have available for the loading is from the contestable market. So there should be no adverse effect on your supply contract with the rest. So this is actually one of the things that you can discuss as you finalize the ILP agreement with Meralco, your rest and your rest. So to ensure that you comply with both your supply contract and the ILP tripartite agreement. Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Letty.
Yes, actually, Sir Bicoy, related to that question, there's another question for Director Ice related to your presentation, ma'am. So in terms of the plan that was presented and the contingency that was also presented earlier, there's a customer who'd like to ask if that forecast, we've already assumed the incoming investors here in the country that have actually large load and capacity and requirement, like the hyperscalers and the other townships that are about to build or rebuild or redevelop their areas, if these were considered in the forecast. Director Ice?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Vernice. Actually, in the forecasting of the demand, we consider the economic and the gross domestic product targets of the government. So we assume that these are already considered as we move towards recovery. Actually, as I mentioned, it's about 7% growth from on the average. But since the 2022 actually, moving to 2023, it's even higher than that, because what we assumed is that we will go back to the 2020 update that we have in the power development plan. So even if there was a lower demand in the previous 2 years, we are expecting that it will go back to the linear line that we are expecting since 2020. So yeah, it's already considered.
Thank you, Director Ice. We have a lot in the project pipeline here in Meralco. That's why we will be prepared for us to be able to take in all these new investors in the country and for the economic growth as well. Thank you, Director Ice.
I have here a question from Gerald Aborte, but this is concerning energy efficiency naman. No? So does DOE have approved any energy savings device? So this may be probably answered by Director Patrick. And maybe I could ask Have you encountered these, our customers, si Engineer Jimmy Patino and Mr. Abe Uy?
So I think that has been going on in social media. Undersecretary Wimpy Pentabelli has already come out publicly as well. DOE has come out publicly and say that we are not endorsing any energy saving device. Let's just be very clear. If you want to save on energy or electricity, you practice energy efficiency. You do conservation. Nothing beats that. Being aware of how you consume. And there's a lot of fake information or misinformation. Let me just clarify that. Misinformation. I think even the spokesperson of Meralco, Sir Joe Saldariaga, his image, one media personality's image have been used and cropped to show that the DOE or Meralco or certain personalities are enjoining people that they can save. Let me just stress, there's no truth to those energy saving devices. We do not sanction those energy saving devices. What we do promote, of course, is what our speakers, our co-speakers have been talking about. Doing the systems analysis, doing an energy audit, and being mindful of your specific energy intensive activities and making improvements on them. So again, we do not endorse, we do not vouch for any energy saving device. Thank you.
So to our customers, have you encountered any na nag-o-offer sa inyo ng ganito? And how did you deal with them?
I think just to add to Director Patrick's message, we actually don't specifically look for devices, just to cut electricity, because I think there's those devices normally they do something to the equipment. In the past, there were people that were offering things that will cut cycles in your air conditioning system, but not truly saving electricity, but actually at the end of the day, it damaged equipment. So some of the areas I think that would benefit us is first of all, we identify which specific items are the highest energy user, and these are the air conditioning system actually. So our goal and target would be, how do you prevent heat from coming into the houses or buildings? Okay, so we put a lot of effort in trying to build a better shell, whether it be a double pane window, whether it be better insulated roof. So these things at the end of the day, they cost a bit more, but the payback is much better in the long term. And at the same time, your energy consumption will significantly reduce by putting a bit more investment in the prevention of heat coming inside the structure.
Yes, thank you, Sir Abe. Thank you very much for that recommendation and advice to all of our customers. How about you, Mr. Engineer Jimmy Patino, for SM?
Well, I fully agree with the statement of Director Patrick and Mr. Abe. There's so many parties or suppliers who offers devices that they said they promote efficiency, but in the end, this doesn't really work. What really works is really mapping where your maximum utilization is coming from. And as Mr. Abe said, there's really the use of technology so that you will be able to optimize the use of electricity. And I always say this when I'm invited to discussions, that to me, the best way to really control your usage it's called the switch. Turn it off, we don't use it, and turn it on when you need to use it. So it's really that kind of thing that we should really practice in our homes, in our businesses. Thank you.
Yes, Engineer Jimmy, that's a very simple approach, yet straightforward and very effective. Maraming salamat, sir. So, but SM has already implemented also the charging station, EV charging station. That's correct, Engineer?
Yes,
That's
we've
correct.
started to have EV charging stations in our malls, and the plan is to expand them. to other branches that that doesn't have them at the moment.
That's correct, because there's another interesting topic that was discussed earlier, was the EVIDA law, or the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, which was presented by Director Patrick Aquino. So a lot of our corporate partners right now are starting to do this initiative. And some of our guests today would like to ask two questions muna, Director Patrick Aquino. Is the 5% EV requirement should be based on the total count of their fleet? And then the second question would be, will this be, I'm just looking for the question right here, but is it expensive for one's corporation to adapt to these electrification of vehicle fleet? Director Patrick?
Okay, let's address the big question on what would the 5%, how will the government be implementing it? As we've indicated in the EVIDA implementing rules and regulations, that determination will be contained in the comprehensive roadmap for the EV industry, or CREVI. Last week, we did a ride shop for the CREVI, attended by our key stakeholders. And as we've indicated there, I've also presented a slide in the recently concluded 10 Philippine EV Summit, wherein the long-term goal is to have 100% new vehicle sales as electric vehicle by 2040. That is in the draft roadmap. Now, how will that translate, at least in the short to medium term, as we've presented in that ride shop? It will be government who will be going into the EV space earlier than our stakeholders. So we will not be mandating our private sector partners to go into this space without government being at the lead. So that will look like through 2030, that government share in terms of EV will be closer to 40%. And that to achieve the sustainability portion for that for government, the direction that we are pushing for is that government buildings and facilities will come in bundled. The EV will be bundled with the charging infrastructure. So how will it look like for private sector users? Well, government remains committed in providing for an enabling environment for you to bring in these electric vehicles. What is in the EV that I can confirm is that, yes, you will be exempted from any unified vehicle reduction scheme. Yes, there will be a special plate for EVs. Yes, your plates and registration will be faster. And yes, there will be discounts when you do your registration. Now, it will not solve, of course, the concern with respect to cost. But I can also confirm that the government is working on having a 0% import tariff, irrespective of the country of origin, for pure electric vehicles in the next 5 years. So that will translate to roughly 100 to 300,000 peso reduction once the Committee on Tariff-Related Matters issues that recommends to the president, and the president issues the executive order for the temporary suspension of the ad valorem importation tax. And to repeat, right now, as we speak, electric vehicles are 100% battery electric vehicles are already 100% no excise tax. Those that are plug-in hybrids or hybrids are at 50%, and these are already contained under the train law. So I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Yes, Director Patrick. Thank you very much for that. Yes, Sir Bicoy, anything else?
Yes, I have here another question from Mr. Romarito Rosales, one of our participants. Probably for Director Ice, the question is, do you have also an outlook for the electricity prices for 2023? Because they saw the outlook for the supply, and of course, supply deficiency has a effect on prices. So will it increase or stay the same or decrease based on existing energy mix?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rosales, for that question. Actually, when it comes to prices, what we do is just for internal purposes, we simulate, we ask either, well, IMOP or us, our team, to simulate the impact of the various scenarios, especially, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the impact of running the natural gas plants with liquid fuel during the Malampaya shutdown on February 4 to 18. Definitely, as I mentioned, there will be impact on that. But we're still looking at it on the different, the different assumptions that we have gathered. But as of now, we don't have those numbers. And if there's, we believe that we don't want to preempt any or any reactions from our consumers with regard to rates that may not be the actual rates that they will receive from their distribution utilities. At the end of the day, it still depends on the mix of the contracted capacity of the distribution utilities that supply them. Because even if the prices, like say fuel, have high prices, if the contract of the distribution utility like Meralco says that it's a constant price for of the generators, a constant price on the power supply agreement with the generators, then it will not be reflected in the rates. So the mix of the contracted capacity of the distribution utility will be the one to be reflected in the power rates of the consumers monthly, and with the different utilities it will be different. So I hope I responded to the question of Mr. Rosales. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ice. Any questions from your end, Miss Bernice?
Yes, I guess while we have Director Ice, there's another question here. All right. Is it possible, this is related to ILP, Director Ice. Is it possible, hold on, there's a lot, but is it, correct, here. So the question is it possible for DOE to push the RES or the retail electric supplier for the immediate signing of the tripartite agreement? So instead of going through the customer and DOE, can we push RES suppliers, and so that they can provide timetable, which is about maybe 1 month to 2 months, if the customer already agreed it, and to participate to ILP? What do you think of that, Director Ice?
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Bernice. No, actually, part of our action plan with regards to the ILP is to have this discussion with the RES, the retail electricity supplier, as well as the contestable customer, on what's delaying their entering into this tripartite contract. It's easier kasi if it's between the two parties like Meralco and an ILP participant. But when you are a contestable customer, then there are three parties who have to enter into a ILP agreement, and that's why we need to understand what are the issues and concerns and what are their recommendations to be able to have a more efficient way of participating in the ILP in this kind of situation. If the participants are contestable customers, and we'll be doing that soon, this November actually. So we'll address the concerns of the contestable customer participants in the ILP.
Thank you, Director Ice. I think we'd also like to tap in Ms. Letty Sapina, who's actually being of help and assistance to us in terms of ILP enrollees. Ms. Letty, what do you think of the incoming ILP enrollees for Meralco at least? Is it a mix of commercial and industrial? Is it more on the commercial side?
Oh, okay. So, majority of the existing participants that the load during activation are mostly from the commercial segment, from commercial establishments. One of the concerns that we heard from the participants from the manufacturing sector is that they require at least a day ahead notice for activation. So with that requirement, and GCP needs to also provide notice on red alert or on red alert the day before, so that these customers can already schedule their operations for the following day. But I guess I want to emphasize also the program is actually open to all types of industries. There is no preferred industry for joining ILP. In the enrollment, though, the program prioritizes customers with large loads because we want to immediately address or to immediately address the need for the continuous power supply and avoid power interruptions.
Thank you, Letty. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. There was a question earlier in the chat that if the hospitals can also participate, even though they're a vital facility, if they can participate. So that's the answer to that. Everybody can participate. Okay to participate for the large load, but if you're between 500 to 1,000 megawatt, 500 kilowatt to 1,000 kilowatt of load, you may also be able to participate. So there, Vicoy. Oh, you're on mute again.
I have a question for our customer participants. So for Engineer Patino and for Mr. Abe Uy, how do you prepare your operations for ILP when a alert is called? So what's the impact to your productivity in operations when this happens? Can you share?
For us, for Walter Mart, actually, our teams are really trained already to adjust whenever there's a power outage that comes in. So our engineer basically have to switch to the grid, to the genset, the generators, instead of getting power from the grid. In terms of the preparation, I think with the past experience, I mean, we started working with the Meralco team, since 2014. So they've really actually had a lot of experience. I think as long as you give us like maybe 2 or 3 hours ahead of, I think right now we're getting like 2 or 3 hours ahead of time. That will be enough time for us to prepare so that we can shut off the power instead of the whole grid failing. Okay, so I think in terms of our team, we're prepared for this, and we really prefer this rather than surprises. Like I said, surprise, because in a way, it also benefits us if in case there's a problem with our own system, at least we can still have power rather than the whole thing shutting down. Although we really maintain our system well as well.
Thank you, Abe. How about Jimmy?
Well, there are challenges involved, no? Just the first notice that we usually receive, if it's scheduled for the day, is at around 6 o'clock. There's a text that comes from Meralco, so our people starts to prepare. However, the bigger challenge is we don't really have dedicated people for gensets. So normally, what happens is that we will have to move people from their normal work to the gensets. Now, we usually hope that the schedule provided, normally this is about 8 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours after the first notice. Let's say if they say it's 11, that it's really going to be 11 o'clock. No? Sometimes the schedule moves depending on the demand in the grid. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later. So those sort of challenges that we have to prepare for. But overall, given these challenges, I agree with what Mr. Abe said. The program is better than, you just lose power without knowing when it is going to happen and when power will actually return. So this is part of probably what the private sector's contribution to the effort.
Thank you, Engineer Jamie. So I wanted to ask that question because it's something that all customers who want to participate in ILP should expect. So maganda naman ang experience niyo. So hopefully when more customers join, they will also have the same experience. Thank you.
Sorry, can I add? Sorry, just to add, in terms of the in terms of our equipment, actually, it's also better for us to shut off the equipment properly and then turn it on again, rather than letting the equipment shut off just randomly, or having the power just come in and then all of a sudden have a surge. I know some of the equipment in the household actually gets damaged when we have too many brownouts, and then especially if there's a very strong surge of power. So this really helps also in terms of improving the life of the equipment.
Well said, sir. Well said. So I guess there's a lot more other questions in the chat room, but you know what? All of the relationship managers of enterprise are here in the in this webinar, and we'll collect all those remaining questions, and we'll be able to meet you and discuss with you with anything about this topics discussed today. So Bikoy, I think we can wrap up. But then before we wrap up, can we ask our panelists for their final remarks? Sir Bikoy? On mute, sir.
Some final statements from our panelists. Yes, maybe we can start with Director Ice, followed by Director Patrick for some final statements.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mr. Vicoy and Ms. Bernice. Yeah, again, we would like to call the support and cooperation of all the participants this afternoon to participate in the ILP. We heard from our existing customers the benefits of being a participant of the ILP, and rest assured that we are here to support the distribution utilities like Meralco and all the participants on whatever issues and concerns that you may wish us to address, being the policy-making body of the government. Maraming salamat po, and hope to see you in the next forum of ILP and other initiatives to ensure that we'll have a secure power supply for 2023 and even beyond. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Director Patrick.
Yeah, the message is very simple. Please continue to support the program on the Interruptible Load Program, or ILP. For our part, we also continue our call for you to examine where you consume your electricity. And it was aptly said earlier that the best way to conserve and be more efficient is that you switch off or turn off, unplug, when you're not using any of the appliances, whether it's in the office or in your own homes. So please join us in our continuing campaign to make energy efficiency our national way of life. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Patrick. We'd also like to call in our enterprise partners, Mr. Abe Uy and Mr. Jimmy Patino, for your advice to our customers on ILP participation. Mr. Abe?
I think the program today is actually a very well developed program. So it starts with the project, which Mr. Daniel talked about the lead, and we are also very the lead and birthday is something that we really look at when we construct our building. And then after we construct, then I think Director Patrick and the energy utilization studies are then the next steps that we always look at in how to constantly improve our system. And then lastly, the Director Irma's project on the ILP is definitely, like I mentioned to the Meralco team also, it's one of the best programs that actually that was developed in really solving inconvenience to the public, and really solving a problem that used to exist before. I think right now, if we get less and less power outage, maybe we don't need generators anymore on our new project. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Abe, and also Mr. Jimmy Patino.
Yeah, I would like to commend Meralco for today's forum. This is very well organized, and I think it gives I like to echo what Bikoy mentioned earlier. ILP is really a bayanihan program. It's a community effort. So the more participation that we get from others will really help the program. Because I always believe, and this happened way back, probably when a lot of you are still very young, during the time of Cory. They said the most expensive electricity is when there's no electricity. So let's make our effort. Let's help each other. To Director Ice, we could give some more participation into this if the franchises outside of Meralco would have a similar program. Because at the moment, I think there are only two big franchises that have ILPs, no? And that's VECO and Meralco. This effort can become more effective if the DUs and the co-ops outside of Meralco will have a similar program, so that as far as SM, we could have probably join more capacities which are created in the outside franchises of Meralco. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Jimmy and Mr. Abe Uy, Mr. Jimmy Patino. Thank you for being our corporate partners. I look forward to meeting you very soon as well. Sir Bicoy?
And also some parting words from our experts from Meralco, Ms. Letty Sapina.
Yes, so we said at the start that ILP is voluntary. Enrollment is voluntary as well as participation. But as the panelists have also mentioned, and as what we've learned during the implementation, the program really works best if there are more customers that sign up and if there is greater deloading during activation. So it's really in everyone's best interest to make the program succeed by signing up and deloading when you're called upon. So we hope that after this, you will already be eager to sign up and finalize your ILP agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Letty. And Engineer Danny Aquilio.
Earlier, we had given you the links for your assigned RM industry leads. And as mentioned by Ms. Bernice, you may always contact your RM partners to support your sustainability journey on load management, energy efficiency, and conservation. We're just a phone call away. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Danny, and thank you again very much. As mentioned, I'll keep on repeating it. Our enterprise relationship management team here in Meralco is always here to support DOE, to support our customers like Mr. Abe and Mr. Jimmy and everybody else. So, Bicoy, that was certainly a very informative discussion.
Yes, and enlightening, a very informative and discussion with our panelists. We hope that this exchange was able to enlighten us all about the positive impact of energy efficiency, resource conservation, and participation in the ILP program of DOE in the overall community.
So thank you very much again to our esteemed panelists from DOE, Director Ice Exconde and Director Patrick Aquino.
And from Meralco, Ms. Letty Sapina and Mr. Danny Aquilio.
And from our Meralco Customer Enterprise Group, Mr. Jimmy Patino of SM and Mr. Abe Uy of Baltimore. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please be reminded that we are going to send you a post-event survey via email. We value your opinion and we would love to find out your thoughts and suggestions about this afternoon's webinar.
Like we said earlier, this is just the second in a series of webinars that will allow us to provide our corporate clients with an end-to-end energy efficiency ideas and power quality solutions. We value your inputs and suggestions. So for the attendees of today's webinar, we'd like to ask for your feedback on how to improve our future webinar sessions. Please scan on the QR code that we are now showing on the screen to answer our quick survey.
We would also like to announce that the next Power Up live session will cover the theme Large Load Customers and Sustainability. So do watch out for that edition, which is scheduled on February 8, 2023. Mark your calendars as early as now. Rest assured that Meralco will also be sending you invitations to this event ahead of time.
So lastly, we are now showing on screen the QR code for you to join the Viber group for enterprise and national government accounts. And make sure to scan it so you can get instant access to news and information from Meralco.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our Power Up Live session has come to an end. It has certainly been a pleasure hosting this event for you this afternoon. We hope to see you again on our next webinar scheduled on February 28th. I'm Vicoy Risma.
And I'm Bernice Garcia Rama, thanking you all for joining us this afternoon. Through this Power Up live sessions, we hope to continue to walk our clients into the future of energy and towards a sustainable future. A pleasant day to everyone and happy weekend. Take care.
Happy weekend.